alien children will overcrowd schools, force up school costs, and decrease the quality of education. Well, I think we've all seen the sketches that are drawn in a courtroom during a trial. Television media often not allowed inside a courtroom, and that becomes an integral part of what you see on television, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. Darrell?
Thank you, John. As a matter of fact, the young man who I would like to introduce to you right now, Mr. Gary Myrick, has been in an awful lot of courtrooms in the past several years, and some of the most sensational trials, perhaps, in our history. And Gary, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show. You formerly worked for Channel 11 one time as our art director. Was this where you began? I didn't realize that.
In television, yeah. Everything to that was kind of minor league, like 7 Seas, which is rest in peace, you know. So, yeah.
And now you are a freelance artist. You work for, among others, Channel 8. So, folks, if the name sounds familiar, Gary Myrick, sure, you've seen his work on Channel 8. And as I said, so many sensational trials here in Texas. I guess the most famous would have to be what, Gary?
Cullen Davis, for sure.
How many of those did you cover?
I covered the bond hearing right after the Mansion murders. And then about a year later, I covered the Houston trial and the one in Fort Worth.
You weren't there for the Amarillo trial then?
No.
Let me ask you a question, because it's going to affect you, I think, ultimately. There is some talk now, as a matter of fact, it's probably even more than talk at this stage, of allowing television to go into courtrooms and televising the proceedings. Do you see this happening? And if so, how will it affect you, other than the obvious?
Well, I advocate the presence of cameras in the courtroom. I think they have a perfect right to be there. There are other forms of on-the-spot drawing. For instance, Sports Illustrated will send an artist on a safari or that sort of thing. And it seems to be an increasing trend for recreations of things.
So you don't see it putting you out of business?
No, not really. No more than photography put painting out of business. It may cause me to diversify or something, but I've always tried to have a two-pronged career at least.
When you're in a courtroom, how do you envision yourself, and what are you looking for to render your concepts?
Well, I don't like excessive dramatizing. I think a lot of courtroom artists make it look as if it were happening in a wind tunnel or something. You know, everyone's just completely aghast constantly. And I prefer things that are really happening, and sometimes that's subtle. Sometimes you have to look at the drawings closely to realize that there was significant body language and gleams in the eye going on that, and indeed it may not become significant until the trial is over and you have hindsight.
Which is great with what you have, because you can go back and look at that and say, I captured that look or that essence. True. That's got to be kind of exciting.
When I do it unintentionally, it's really gratifying. Yeah.
Is there a danger in doing this type of thing, in getting into a caricature type of setup? Do you have to be aware of that?
It depends on whether there are caricatures present, I think, you know, and sometimes there are. Some people have said that this work can tend to be cartoonish, and I think it can in the wrong hands, and I do try to avoid it unless someone is funny.
Unless they deserve that,
That's
that
what
particular
I'm saying. Yeah.
in-depth understanding of the individual.
Yeah.
We have some of your work here. Some of this is going to be very familiar because folks have seen it at other times. I'm not going to pretend I know what all this is, so I'll let you tell about it.
Okay, well, that one is really rather morbid, because if you look closely, you'll notice that there's an axe by that gentleman. He is the husband of Betty Gore, who was, as we all know, done in by that particular instrument.
This is the husband.
Yeah.
Was there something here that you elected to do this particular study of him? Or
I thought it was extremely ironic that he was testifying with the axe sitting beside him. Yeah.
This one I like. I don't know that I understand all I know about it, but I like it.
Well, this is Judge Gordon Gray during a moment of repose.
Was this during the trial proceedings, or was there a recess, or?
It was during. I'm not saying he was
Here
asleep.
again, the artist captures what he sees.
That's right.
And this is what you saw.
Yeah.
Are you trying to make a statement with this, or are you in fact a reporter?
I feel that I have the same responsibility as a reporter. I consider it a form of journalism. I try not to opinionate and editorialize, which you can do.
Would be very, I would think there would be a tendency to want to do that because you have that in your power to do so.
If you become emotionally involved with the proceedings, you have to guard against favoring someone over another. Yeah.
Okay. What is this?
That is Jack Strickland sitting behind Racehorse Haynes on the left. And this was sort of a strategy, I think, of his, perhaps to intimidate.
Strickland, of course, was with the district attorney's office.
Right, in the Cullen Davis trial. And some of the jurors are behind him.
Again, capturing just a little bit of something that perhaps the average person would not notice, or if he did, would not recognize it as being perhaps what it intended to be.
Right, yeah. That's one reason I'm having the exhibition, is because people will have time.
That's right. We need to mention you are having an exhibition too. Let's look at this one first, because this is a study.
Yeah, that is perhaps a little lighter, and I could be a little more humorous. Those are the Cullen Davis groupies, whom I invite to attend the exhibition.
Have they seen the work, and if so, how did they feel about it? Have you heard anything from them?
They were pleased. They offered to lick envelopes and things for me.
In the 30 seconds that we have left, Gary, you're going to have an exhibit coming up.
DW Galleries in Dallas on McKinney Hall, March 7th through April 2nd.
DW Galleries, and that's at 3305 McKinney at Hall in Dallas. Gallery hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5. Gary will have his works on exhibit there, along with Frank X. Talbert, who will have some photojournalism too. Gary, thank you for coming and sharing this with us, and be looking forward to seeing a lot more from you on television.
I hope you do.
Thank you. We'll be back with more news in just a moment.